Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dink podcast. My name's JJ.
And I'm Graham.
And this is episode 8.
Episode 8.
Took a little bit of a break. I know we had some reviews, some other reasons that Graham and I will get into, but not a ton. There was a lot of news the last like 2.5 weeks, but I think most people have covered a lot of it. So I think we're just going to cover the last PPA event down in Tucson, just some things that happened there, some new stuff coming out, a new paddle that just came in, as well as some other paddles that people have been talking about.
Yeah.
But some exciting things for us is we've actually started conducting some interviews. So I think we're going to keep them separate from the podcast, even though Graham is going to be my second chair on most of these interviews. I ended up sitting down with the co-founder of Diadem after Diacon, had some interesting thoughts, got some information that we'll share in a bit. And we also got to sit down with Zane, which was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. He's a really cool guy.
Yeah. And just a lot of strong opinions too, which is really nice to see. And obviously good for content. He has his own podcast, obviously. So he's used to this.
Yes, for sure. He's very comfortable.
But so I'll be releasing those shortly. I have the Zane one completely edited, and then the one with Diadem is almost done. So expect those on my channel shortly. But yeah, just kind of some
fun.
The
Zane one will probably be up before this, right?
I don't know.
No?
I don't know. This might be going out tomorrow.
Okay.
So there's a couple things I need to fix with that. But yeah, they'll both be out this week. So be on the lookout for that. But let's jump right into Tucson PPA.
Yeah.
And I think the most obvious one that everyone was kind of waiting to see was Fed with that new Adidas paddle. And
didn't go well.
Did not go well.
Did not go well. He went down first round of singles in the round of 32 to one of
new pro from Australia, right?
New pro from Australia, yeah. So
he was using a flamingo too.
He was using the flamingo. Yeah. Him and I don't remember her name, a female, got signed by Proton
from Australia
right before Australia, and then I think they came down for just Tucson, and I think they went back.
Wow, that's a lot of travel.
Yeah.
I've done that flight. That is not a fun one to recover from.
But yeah, I mean, he beat him, and there was some commentary that Fed was not a huge. He wasn't happy with the paddle.
Yeah.
But I will go back to PPA Desert Ridge. So same time last year, I went on Thursday for singles, and I watched Christian Alshon, and he broke a TKO like out of pure anger.
Yeah.
So, and we know that that's a great paddle. So we'll see.
It might be, like I said, just quick adjustment.
Yeah, it's definitely a change from a 3S.
I mean, that's why we saw Ben when he switched from Franklin to Joola. He struggled with that original Hyperion for a while. So, I mean, like I said, these pros they're used to they're
dialed in. He's been at Joola for 2.5 years. Yeah. So, and I mean, we all know that 3S is one of the best paddles in the game. So,
I mean, that's why it sold so well.
Exactly. So it's a hard switch, but I mean, he was using the 3S in the last tournament. So it's like,
so he just
even though I'm sure he's had it and he's been using it, it's still a tough switch.
Yeah. So like I said, updated metal bone. I'm guessing, I don't know what it's going to be called, but obviously we saw some teases for it on, I think Twitter is where I first saw it from. I mean, the worst kept secret that he was going to Adidas, but actually seeing him use it, I'm sure it's just adjustment. Yeah. I mean, I even know like Augie at the Masters, I was talking to him. I mean, he switched back to the original Prism from the Saga. And I mean, ton of people love the Saga. So these pros are dialed. They like what they like. And I mean, they're going to use the equipment that best serves them to win.
Exactly.
That they're allowed to use, or maybe in some other cases that they're not allowed to use, but we've already covered that enough.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Another big thing, obviously, Ben using the new Joola 4, Gen 4 paddle, which I don't know if we've mentioned, but we're going to be going to Vegas.
I'm going to go back to Fed real quick because I forgot he withdrew from men's doubles as well.
Because of injury, right?
So it said injury. Yeah. So we can also give Fed the benefit of the doubt on that.
New paddle might be injured.
Mixed didn't go well either.
Yeah.
They lost in the round of 16 with Catherine. So
no, that's a good add-in. I was thinking that too. And
so he did go out with injury. So can't fully blame the paddle.
How much you want to read into that? But also, like, again, we've seen Fed. I mean, he made almost every finals last year. If not, he did. Yep. So there might be
Zane said that paddle hits
hard,
really hard.
When we walked by him.
Yeah, he said it hits like a truck. So
all right.
We'll see.
So now jumping into the Gen 4, Graham and I will be going to the launch event for Joola, so we'll be having our hands on it next week.
Yeah, we'll be in Vegas next week.
Yeah, we'll have the Gen 4 next week. I don't know how much we're going to be able to say about it for a while, so sorry if we're teasing it and next week we haven't. We can't talk about it, but just want to say we will have our hands on it, so we're going to start play testing with it. We'll get all the information, and we'll let you know when the embargo's up so we can start talking about it.
They had initially said release was in March, so
hopefully not too long then.
So hopefully, at most, it's a month.
Yeah.
And I think that's just going to be the Perseus shape.
Yeah, from what we've seen.
From what they've said on social media.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to them, so... Yeah, and then Ben had a new partner this week. He teamed up with Hayden Patriquin. We haven't seen him in Tardio yet.
Yeah.
But him and Hayden took a go at it, and they made it to the semifinals, lost to Andre and Alshon. So
yeah. A little rematch. Obviously, Ben was playing with Colin, but rematch of the semis of the Masters.
Yeah.
For Alshon and Andre, at least against Ben.
Yes. Yeah, it seemed like they played pretty well together. They enjoyed it, but not the outcome they wanted.
Yeah.
But, Diascu and Alshon are looking real good.
Their chemistry is starting to click. It's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be able to keep making those gold medal matches.
Yeah.
Obviously, like I said, Ben's had their number, but they broke through this week. It'll be interesting when Ben's playing with Tardio. But just some notes I wanted to say kind of on that match. Obviously, the new C45 paddle. I know I've been hearing some comments of the sound is a little bit different. Yeah. And this was something that this is something that I think you and I noticed though, also when we got our C45s. And it doesn't sound like that, but it sounds a lot more like that once you put a ton of weight on it.
Yeah, more, but still not like it did at the Masters.
Not as loud as it did at the Masters. But the point I wanted to bring up with this, because a lot of people last week were talking about how they really like lighter paddles or how this is good for the market. And I don't disagree with that. But the comment I always would reply to with that is Paddletech had the ESQC. That's a super light paddle, or even the ALWs.
Yeah.
Great paddles that are light that play great stock. The C45, to me, there's just no oomph to it without weight.
Yeah.
Like you can play with it. It doesn't feel fantastic. It is super light. My swing weight was 104. So again, if you're looking for that, you might like it. But if you're watching the pros and that's what's getting you excited about the paddle, the amount of weight you have to add to that paddle to get it anywhere near that, it's not going to be light anymore. Yeah. And that's kind of the point I was trying to get at is they're advertising a paddle one way, and obviously the pros are going to play, they always almost weight it up even more.
Yeah.
But it's like if you're getting excited about a paddle for the sound, the performance, and the way the pros are playing with it, that's going to be a completely different paddle than how you get it stock and how likely you're going to choose to play it.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and it's like not all amateurs weight up their paddle.
Exactly.
So it's like
or
it has
even know
to
how to.
Exactly. It has to perform decently.
Yeah.
Stock. And
that's why that's one thing I'll give. I think Chorus was one of the first brands I saw do this kind of across a lot of their paddles with the Fire. Obviously some issues with the Fire right now with USAP. Don't know if that paddle is fully delisted or not. I know there's still some updates going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So I'll post some of them out eventually, maybe an update video. But just referencing the Chorus Fire, that was a paddle that I don't think was great stock, but it wasn't bad.
No.
Like that was one where I'm like, okay, people would use this and like, it's fine. But you add a little weight and that paddle's amazing.
Yeah.
Versus these, it's like, I would say these paddles are slightly even worse than that. And they need significantly more weight to get to where, and this also isn't us. I mean, I know Graham weighs up his paddle a ton. I weigh up mine slightly. I understand, like I said, most amateurs players don't throw a ton of weight on their paddle. I am just saying though, to where if you go pick up a stock paddle and you expect it to play well, that's the point of reference I'm going to.
Yep.
Of where it's like, you need to add a decent amount of weight for this paddle, in my opinion, to play like just good to what other paddles play stock.
Well, I mean, it's like even with Hayden's, it's like, so Franklin released all the weight setups. So all
which
the pros,
was exciting because I know that they were going to do that.
Hayden's, I mean, if they come in at 7.4, 7.7, his is 8.9 when he's playing.
Yeah.
So he's got an ounce and a half of lead on it. Paris Todd had weight through the handle and then all the way around.
Yeah.
It's a whole new paddle.
Completely different paddle.
Completely different paddle. So
But
I mean, you can get it there.
Yeah.
If you want to. So,
and I mean, that's the point of reference. Like I said, the pros are even twice the amount of weight you put on it. And you usually put on about double what I put on, or at least just about half.
Yeah. I sit at about static. It's usually about 8.5 to 8.8. So
yeah. See, I don't like anything over like 8.2, 8.3. And usually I'm probably more around 8.1. So that's why it's like, I just want to kind of give that point of reference because that's been coming up a lot in the comment section. So I just kind of wanted to, it's like these pros are playing with a paddle that's significantly heavier than what you're using. Yours is heavier than what I'm using. And then obviously stock is lighter than what I use. So it's like this paddle can change so much. So it's like, if you're excited for the C45, I do think it is a very exciting paddle.
Yeah.
The one thing I did want to point out, which is both of us experienced it in the first play session, and a lot of the other reviewers I've been messaging in the Discord, same thing. There's loose glue immediately. Like that paddle starts rattling very quickly. At Franklin, I emailed them. It seems like it's a known issue. They might be doing something to sweeten the deal of either getting some free balls. Don't quote me on that. They just mentioned that they're looking into it if it is a major issue of maybe ways to help the customer out, because it's like that shouldn't be happening.
No.
It doesn't affect the play. It's just loose glue. That's what all that rattle is. It's not broken. At least not yet. So normally that loose glue is just makes that maraca noise and it doesn't affect the play of the paddle. It's just a major annoyance, which you would like to not see. I also heard the new Pro XR, the Proto Hype 2, exact same thing. With it starts rattling immediately. And then there's other issues with that.
The thing that scares me with the rattling is that the only paddles, in my experience, that start rattling immediately end up breaking.
There's one that I could say that doesn't, but it's an old one. It's the old Franklin Ben John.
Yeah.
That thing, it's like first week would start rattling and that thing was never breaking.
Yeah. But
I shouldn't say never, but like it took a while for that to break.
The original Gen 3s, mine started rattling immediately.
Thermoformed, yeah.
The mod started rattling immediately for me. And I'm saying for me.
Yeah,
because we don't break paddles.
Yeah. That's another note too I wanted to bring up. Graham and I play a lot, and I mean a lot. Like I'm playing twice a day, probably 3 hours some days, both sessions. And then when I only play once, I'm usually playing for like 3 to 4 hours in the evening.
Yeah.
Like we play a lot. Graham and I must not swing hard enough, because we do not core crush paddles nearly as fast as other reviewers or other players. Now, one of the reasons I want to bring this up is the Flamingo. Yeah. I have heard some issues with it core crushing. Part of me is I'm like, okay, does this mean it's core crushed out of the box, kind of like the mod, so it's more susceptible to it? Or is this an issue with the core? I don't know. Yeah. But it's interesting because I gave one of my review paddles to have go play test to our friend Brick. 5.0 player, he hits it hard. His hasn't broke. But then our other friend, Cody, he just breaks everything he uses, it seems like.
Yeah.
I mean, he broke original Series 3, I can't remember, another brand of paddle, and then now the Flamingo. So, I don't know. All I know is I would love to hear if you've bought the Flamingo, if you've experienced this, because I have gotten some DMs, so I've been kind of pointing to people in the way to go. That should not be happening. We should not have this many issues. It is the first run, so maybe that's the issue, because I know the Series 3 originally had an issue with this as well.
Yeah.
The original release. But I wanted to point that out because obviously we've talked about the Flamingo more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And
we've probably used it more than anybody else.
And we haven't experienced it. And
at all. If anything, it's had that like softening up a little bit.
Yeah, barely.
But not, it softens up with, like you put weight on it and it just makes the sweet spot bigger too. So
that's the only thing.
But that's the only change. Like there's been no power change.
No.
And we've been testing it on the radar gun and there's no power change for us.
Maybe half a mile per hour. It's like, it's not.
That's variable to how hard you swing.
Exactly.
So I really don't know. For us, it hasn't.
But yeah, I just want to be transparent about that. Because like I said, I've been getting a lot of DMs. And like I said, obviously we've been talking about the Flamingo the most. We were lucky to get them. I don't want to just only say the good things about it. Because like I said, I do try to be fair to every paddle. Like I said, it has been my main. But
and if it's breaking, then that's
that's not a good thing.
Okay, and it's not good.
Especially for a paddle that's $280. Now, the one thing that I have been directing is, like I said, they do have a warranty. Someone said it only says 6 months on the website. I was told a year from Charles, the owner. Still trying to get clarification on that. But if you do run into an issue with your Flamingo or another Proton, submit a warranty. I know the team over there. They're usually very accommodating.
Yeah.
So please take advantage of that. Because like I said, if you're spending that much money, you should have a paddle that lasts.
They usually also always answer their phones. Too.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah. So
he's working hard over there.
yeah, he. Shout out to Mark.
Shout out to Mark. So that was an update on that. Kind of going into paddles breaking. Obviously, USAP had their media day. A lot of reviewers went. We weren't invited, but we watched a lot of the content. I texted a couple of the reviewers, just kind of getting what they were going to talk about because I was just curious. And it was a lot of kind of what I expected.
Yeah.
And I think the general sentiment was a lot of them went in being more optimistic about USAP and leaving less optimistic after.
Definitely underwhelming.
Yeah. And also the other thing I think most of them also highlighted was USAP, I think, was hoping to get everybody on their side with this event. And they did
kind of the opposite.
And the main points, just to summarize, was smart people. No one, I don't think, has doubts about that over at USAP. Like everyone behind the scenes, very smart people. They have the equipment. They've invested the money. They're trying to do the right thing. And they've made strides in the right direction.
Yeah.
The main issue is the destructive testing, which is something that I had mentioned a couple months ago that very similar to how the pros weight up their paddles so much, it's a completely different paddle than what USAP is testing. It's like USAP is not testing these paddles with all this weight on it. And those paddles hit significantly harder with that much weight. So that's one thing. The second thing, which is the bigger issue across the industry, is...
But don't worry, you can't weight your paddle over 10 ounces, so...
Yeah, there is a limit, but like, I mean, okay, 9.8, it's like, that's still going to hit significantly harder than the paddle stock.
Just a quick funny story. One time I was playing with this guy, and he goes, my paddle is 12 ounces. He goes, feel my forearm. He had like this massive, just like bubble of a muscle on this right forearm.
Is this at the park?
Yeah. Yeah, Horizon. Left arm, nothing. Right arm, just a massive bubble of a muscle.
Did he play any other sports, racket sports?
I think he had to have played racquetball.
Backhand.
He still flicked it like this, and he's like, it's 12 ounces. And I was like, ridiculous. Why? Why? So
that's insane.
That's the only person I've ever met that's gone over the legal limit of weight.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, and the thing is, it makes sense to weight your paddle as heavy as possible as long as your hands are still fast.
Yeah.
It only benefits you. Bigger sweet spot, more power. It's like, it's more stable. Like, anyways, like I said, we're not strong enough to have a 10-ounce paddle and be able to play at a good level.
Exactly.
But the second part, which has been the bigger issue in the industry, and we have one paddle that has kind of was a concern to me from the start, is paddles breaking.
Yeah.
And meaning that of you have paddles like the mod, whether it was intentional or not, where it passes initially. Obviously, it's being delisted, but I'm just speaking of when it was legal.
Yeah.
It passes initially, but then the paddle breaks in or breaks.
Yeah.
And then it gets significantly hotter. Is USAP going to test, like do destructive testing and like test the paddle after a certain amount of hits or in a couple months? And their answer was no.
Yeah.
At the end of it, the meeting, apparently they were saying they're open to the discussion and like trying to find solutions. But their initial response to brands and the reviewers asking those questions was it's on the brands, which is not the right answer. Because the whole point of being a third-party testing, that is all you do.
Yeah.
You should be looking for every area that brands could try to explore to exploit your testing and try to catch that. Like, that is the whole point of your organization.
Well, it's exactly like the gearbox. It's like that thing changes so much.
Yeah.
Like so much from start to where it gets.
And that paddle's not breaking in the same, like that core is still intact.
Yeah.
It just heats up because of the foam core and the way they designed it.
Every brand could go do that if they're saying they're not going to fix it.
Well, especially because the other concern from the brands that were there is if all of them play by the rules, you're just going to have another startup company with a good amount of capital or, good marketing. And if they create the hottest paddle, I mean, we've seen it this past year. It's like, that's why the Joola mods were so popular, even though they were breaking. People like the power. And then obviously the 3S's and then the paddle tags. It's like the power paddles
and I think
are the most popular for a reason. So it's what the consumer wants, even though it might not be what's best for most people's games.
And we've been talking a lot about this, like everybody's expectation, us included and the reviewers included, it has to change what our perceived the perception of power is.
Yeah.
Because when we think of power, our baseline is the mod and the gearbox because that's what we've seen. And that's what we've been
or the
Ripple. And that's what we've been playing against and playing with for a year.
Yeah.
Now it's like these power paddles that are definitely power paddles are coming out, like Flamingo, 008, True Foam. I would say those are all power paddles now.
The 11SIX24 power series.
11SIX24 power series. I would say those are all power paddles.
Yeah.
Because we don't know the PB core numbers.
Yeah.
Hopefully when John gets his basement all set up, then we'll get to
or hopefully brands are just more willing to,
or they're more willing
I know
to
some of them don't want to share, but
and it's like eventually it's going to be a stat like swing weight.
Yeah.
And we'll know and it'll just be, but I think we're going to see that like the 008s are in that like 0.4 to 0.2 range. Like it could be towards the higher end of power.
Yeah.
But we're thinking of power as a mod.
And that's, like I said, I think the biggest issue is I think the reviewers obviously are coming around to, like I said, realizing that. There's been a couple comments I've heard that I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think they've put that in full perspective. But the bigger issue is the lagging effect of the end consumer. Because if a consumer has been used to a Joola mod and they're just a rec player, they're not going to switch. I mean,
that's exactly.
Why
would they?
You already see people, like I said, with a broken mod go to a new one and they're like, oh, it doesn't play as good. And it's like, that's a paddle now that's like, even when it's new, is illegal starting in a couple months.
Exactly.
And the other thing, too, I wanted to point out is, so unless I'm mistaken, obviously 0.43 is going forward. But I believe, if I remember correctly, 0.44 is through the end of this year.
Yeah.
So there's going to be even more paddles that are going to come off the top end of the tier list of power.
Yeah.
And that's why I've seen a ton of comments and a ton of replies of people being disappointed by the True Foam, the Genesis.
Yeah.
I understand it. Because like I said in my review, that paddle does not do anything flashy or anything special. It is just a very solid paddle that has very good dwell time. And their claim is to have solved durability. And also, as we brought up the Flamingo, I have not seen any issues with the True Foam Genesis outside of one paddle. There's only been one I have seen that has been sent to me that looks like it's broken. But again, out of how many people are using it and how many they've sold, me only being sent one, that's a pretty good sign. But like I said, no paddle is going to be 100% immune.
Yeah.
And like I said, you also might have a defect from the factory. So that's not on carbon most likely. But again, just trying to be transparent, I have seen one. So if more pop up, we'll share that as well. But where I was going with that is, I conducted my power numbers, and I know we went through them in the last podcast, and I just want to bring up where this is at. So the PaddleTech TKO CX, so with the longer handle where I get a little more leverage, 53.7 miles per hour. Flamingo was just over 55 miles per hour. The True Foam, the Genesis, was just under 53 miles per hour. Like, that's not a big difference. Like, I mean, 1 miles per hour, like, it is, but it's not as far off. However, if you compare that to the Gearbox Ultimate,
this is the legal one.
The legal one, just under 57 miles per hour.
Yep.
I don't know if that paddle at the end of this year will be legal or not. Obviously, they've just come out with a new one, or they're working on a new one to be PB Core passing.
Yeah.
But see, like, that's one I wonder if that's 0.44. And obviously, none of us know. It's just speculation.
Compared to the Ripple, and it's 59.
Yeah, the Ripple was 59. And no wonder that paddle didn't come out. And like I said, I know a bunch of people are blaming reviewers for, like I said, highlighting this and like, oh, how is this legal? How is this passing? It's like, if we had numbers like that, I mean, part of our job in my mind is to protect the end consumer. Like I said, does this paddle last? What's good? There's obviously the perceived value effect. That's a separate conversation, but it's like, how is this paddle good? Does it break? And what's the performance like? And then what's the price? If a paddle, in my mind, if I recommend it and I know it's probably going to get delisted, I'm going to have a bunch of people that are going to get mad at me because they bought a paddle and then it's not going to be legal anymore.
Yep.
And I know a lot of reviewers, I know Chris highlighted this with the original Joola Gen 3. That has put a bad taste in a lot of the reviewers' mouths of, if something doesn't add up or doesn't seem right, we need to highlight it, because if we don't, we might run into another Joola Gen 3 situation. And the Ripple falls directly into that because that paddle hits so hard. The other one, which is scary, the Diadem Hush. which quiet paddle, not approved for like tournament play. 57.1.
Yep, 57.1 compared to the Gearbox Ultimate 56.8.
It's like, that's borderline. And it's like, okay, obviously there's other factors to that, but it's like, this is a controlled environment, use the same ball, retested, inside, good conditions. It's just like, it's just interesting. It's interesting seeing this. And this is also like why everyone wants USAP to step up, or UPAA.
Yeah. So
we just want one of these organizations to step up so that when we know there's that stamp of approval, we know that paddle is going to be fine. It's going to be fine for at least the foreseeable future. Because obviously things do change. Every sport has rule changes. But it's like, if you come out with a new paddle and you're within the rules, that paddle should at least be okay for a year to 2 years.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
In my mind, which is another question of how long do people want paddles to last, a year is a good time for a paddle in the current market we're at.
Yeah, I agree.
Hopefully we get to where paddles last 2 years. And obviously there are paddles that last longer than that. And obviously you can use paddles longer than that. But I'm talking about grit still being somewhat relevant, it not being a butter smooth face, and hopefully the core is still intact.
Yeah.
And the edge guard's not breaking, all this stuff. Pickleball's got a long way to go for durability.
Even if we take out the grit and it's just like the core still intact.
Yeah, exactly.
Edge guard's fine.
Like you see a lot of those original Selkirk paddles from 2-3 years ago, a lot of people still use.
Yeah.
There's no grit. They're butter smooth.
A lot of people still use the original Hyperion.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people love that paddle and they will not switch off of it.
Well, it's crazy because like I said, that paddle outside of the edge guard is a lot more durable than the Gen 2 version of their Joola paddles. Because I mean, those core crush like crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just interesting. Like I said, it's just seeing these numbers and just kind of where we're at. I hope USAP, like I said, steps it up because I am rooting for them. I'm also rooting for UPAA. I just want one of these organizations or them to join. Probably not going to happen, but
yeah,
we just need better regulation in pickleball and very clear parameters for testing that these manufacturers will stay within. And hopefully that protects the end consumer more than it has been the last 2 years.
I agree.
So jumping into some gear, we've got a new paddle that's coming out. Just got these in. Played the last 2 nights with this, but the Thrive Smoke, the next paddle from Thrive. And obviously last year, a lot of people know, Thrive Azul was my main for a very, very long time. And honestly, still is in the bag. Played a couple tournaments with this last year. Absolutely love it. Definitely a power paddle, but it's a hybrid. And that was the one thing I always wanted and was hoping Thrive would come out with is an Azul in an elongated shape. And I know they've got the Threat and the Rush, but latest and greatest is now the Smoke.
Yep.
And this doesn't hit quite as hard as the Azul from my initial testing numbers. We'll get into that, but just want to run down some specs for the Smoke. The swing weight is 119. The twist weight was 6.1. And the static weight is 7.9 ounces. So for an elongated, fairly low swing weight. And I think I remember you saying when you hit this very briefly, felt kind of light.
It did feel light, yeah.
And like I said, for just an elongated paddle, like I said, being in that 119 is kind of a pretty good range. I know, like I said, a lot of elongators are more in that 122 to 121. So this gives you a little bit more room. Like I said, if you want to throw some weight on this, I've only played this stock. I don't want to give too many thoughts on it quite yet. I am impressed with it. It doesn't wow me or anything, but it's a very solid paddle. Getting into some numbers, just in terms of power, my speed test with this, I believe, was around 51 miles per hour, just over that. And to compare it to something else, the Pickleball Apes Pulse X, which is their updated, upcoming elongated shape.
Yeah.
Normal elongated shape, not that ultra elongated. Our power test came back around just under, or just over, I should say, 50.5 miles per hour. So this hits harder than that. Also, my J2TI Plus hit 51 miles per hour, so identical to this. Now that is pre-break-in. My TI Plus has not broken from Honolulu Pickleball. But definitely a paddle, like I said, it hits hard, but it's lower end of power.
Yeah,
it's definitely lower end of power. It's got good reach. Like I said, it's 5.5-inch handle. The neck tapers too, so you got a lot of room for twoies.
Yep.
But definitely something I'm excited about. I know you mentioned you might be testing this a little bit more in some tournaments.
I might try it out in singles in Mesa. Probably that or the Joola, maybe. We'll see.
Oh, the new Joola.
Depends on how I like it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
So we'll see.
We'll have that right before
the TKO is still in the bag. CX, yeah. I really like that paddle for singles. So, or the Flamingo, since I'm using that in doubles. If I don't feel like changing.
Like I said, I'm probably not using this in Mesa, but the event after, I'll probably want to play test this if I'm, like I said, really enjoying it. Some of the pros on the APP side have been doing very well with it. I mean, I think Jill Braverman, she's won 3 golds already with the smoke.
Yeah.
So obviously, like I said, she's seeing success. I know she really loves the paddle. So, like I said, pros are enjoying it. I know there's a lot of Thrive fans out there. I definitely am one. And honestly, I actually really like the silver on this. It's not glossy like the C45, but it is a little bit shiny. And the other thing that you and I also very much, like I said, appreciate is a good stock grip. This is one that I definitely would feel comfortable leaving on. I won't. I probably will still switch to an over grip, but
you could.
It's just nice because, as I mentioned in my Flamingo review, not a good stock grip. That was about my only major knock on that paddle, was that stock grip was terrible.
Stock grip sucked.
But yeah, like I said, exciting new paddle from Thrive. Like I said, I'm sure you'll be seeing more of it. But yeah, we're going to be playtesting. I know Graham gets his own units this week, so we'll give some more thoughts and more play testing thoughts in the coming weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
So next up, we don't have these paddles, but I just want to talk about them briefly. So Diacon happened.
Yep.
And I had the chance to sit down with one of the co-founders. And there's not too much I can say. I apologize for teasing, but there's a couple things that I think I'm able to say. And so basically, they unveiled their new Bluecor, which is their new all-foam core. From what I have been told and kind of what I've been hearing, a lot of the materials are sourced the same as Selkirk with their 008. I do not know how this paddle performs. What I do know, and what I was given, so I feel like I can share this, there is going to be 9 SKUs. So there are going to be 3 different thicknesses of their new paddle. I think the thickest is 19 millimeters. I do not know the other 2. Obviously, they're going to be thinner than that. But so there's going to be a lot of variation with this paddle to where 3 different shapes, 3 different thicknesses, which is exciting.
Yeah.
I know a lot of reviewers and a lot of people are really liking having that versatility, like I said, of kind of having an all-court power and control. Whether the new Bluecor paddle will fall into those 3 categories, I don't know yet. I'd assume so. But it's exciting because, I mean, as we keep mentioning, and it's a really hot topic this year, is durability.
Yep.
And Diadem is very confident in their new technology that this paddle will last. And that's something they're shooting for. So that's something that's going to be exciting to be looking out for. I will have my interview up shortly, so there'll be more information on that. But as of right now, that's unfortunately all I can share. And can also say they're coming out in the near future, but there's no set release dates.
And the core's blue.
And the core is blue. But as soon as we can actually talk about those and we get our hands on some more test units, we'll gladly share. Because like I said, I think that's going to be kind of a very, very exciting launch because Diadem's been doing some really, really cool things for pickleball in general, of branching out into facilities and just kind of some different areas of the game for growing. Because they're just, because Diacon, for people that don't know, massive event, they're around their headquarters in Florida. And I originally thought it was just kind of for pickleball, but they were originally founded as a tennis company and then got into pickleball in 2019, I believe. And they say Diacon, even though is for Diadem, it's really supposed to be more celebration for racket sports.
Yeah.
They just really love, like I said, all of the racket sports, the celebration of it, the history of it, and kind of where things are trying to go.
Yeah.
Another thing also, which we got sent, is the new, or the previous Diadem shoe, which I know a ton of people are a huge fan of, and they just announced they're coming out with a new one. So might need to do a comparison in the future on that as well.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
So that's our thoughts on the Bluecor. I know, like I said, some of the news broke on that. Unfortunately, like I said, not much more we can share. But diving into the paddle that did release, and for everyone asking and everyone that's been asking me, I still have not received these paddles. This is on loan from a friend. and I've been able to play with it for a week. I had hit it slightly before. I was able to hit the Vapor and the Huarache X. I hit the Huarache X significantly more than I hit the Vapor. And I have some thoughts. I'm going to have a review out because I was told I was going to get these paddles in, and I haven't been getting a response. So just going to submit with what I have had, because I know I have some differing opinions and I want to share it. But I'll kind of give a brief summary of it here. I think this is a great paddle. I think this is a great power paddle, especially for the price. However, I find it hard to control. And I think it's, as you pointed out, is that fiberglass layer. So the face makeup, if I remember correctly, is carbon fiber, fiberglass, carbon fiber, which is fairly common.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, and I think it's because there's not much dwell time, I miss so many drops and just so many routine ball placement shots with this paddle. And I gave this paddle to a couple other high-level players because I just want to make sure I wasn't crazy, because a lot of people are really loving this paddle. And again, it's not a bad paddle. It is a very good power paddle. If you are looking for a power paddle that's affordable, that, like, you're trying to replace the mod, this is not a bad spot to go. Especially They have 3 shapes. So, like I said, if you want more versatility, or you like a wide body, or like I said, their Vapor shape, which I'm glad Chris and Will brought this up, because I meant to bring it over here, but it reminded me of the Willinator. Now, I wish the Willinator, or I should say, I wish the Vapor, like the Willinator, had a longer handle, because the Vapor is only 16.25, so it is a hybrid.
Yeah.
But that longer handle, I think I would have loved the Vapor even more, because I really do like that shape.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to play with them, really, because we don't have them, and you've only had this for a few days. But in playing with you yesterday while you were using it, you definitely looked timid on shot.
Extremely timid.
Because you were like, if I swing, I'm going to pop it up.
Yeah.
So,
and that was my 4th day using it too.
Yeah. So I definitely noticed that.
With hours of play.
Yeah.
Because I think I've played probably about 30 rec games with the Huarache.
We played for like 2 hours yesterday.
But I was just saying in general of, like, I've probably played around 30 games, because I was trying to keep tracks. Like, I wanted to at least hit 20. And then yesterday morning, I was easily able to go well over that. But I played about 6 games with the Vapor, and I've played about 30 games with the Huarache. But yeah, your thoughts are kind of very much of where I was at. I was able to dial it in, kind of, but it was a lot harder than switching back to the True Foam or switching to the Flamingo. And again, this is my personal preference. This, like I said, some people might like pop your face. I know some people are saying this is lower on pop. I haven't ran pop numbers. I usually don't do pop numbers, but just based off feel, I feel like this paddle plays so much poppier than the way people are saying. Yeah. And it, like I said,
someone was saying, I think it was Braden, was saying that or maybe it was Aaron, the Pegasus is poppier than the rest of them.
Yeah, too. Because, I mean, typically, like I said, wide bodies are going to have a poppier face. And I have not even hit the Pegasus.
That's what I'm saying. So,
with other wide bodies I've used, that is generally the case.
Yeah, so we'll see about that.
But it was one of those things of, it's like, the one thing that made me, I'm like, okay, something's up with this paddle for me, is my serve.
Yeah.
I never have issues with my serve. I hit like a really power slice serve that I'm able to keep really compact and get it to move really hard left to right. And I can usually always, after like, say, 4 test serves, keep it in. I was missing so many with this paddle. And again, the weird thing is, like, let's get into some power numbers here. The Huarache, my average speed on my serve was 53.3 miles per hour. That is below the Flamingo at 55.
Yeah.
And below the 3S, below the
right about the True Foam,
below the Paddle Tech, below the Rev Zeus, below the 008 with, above, sorry, that was my max. Just above the 008 Invicta with added weight. And just, it's like, so the numbers aren't lining up with my actual playing of this paddle. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
But yeah. So like I said, I'll go more in depth in my review. But basically, my conclusion and some other 5.0 players that I lent this paddle to play like 2 or 3 games with and switching off theirs and some other paddles I was letting them use. The general sentiment we all got was the ball just doesn't stay on the face very long.
Yeah.
Which is something I have grown very accustomed to with the grit of the Flamingo, the dwell time of the True Foam.
Yeah.
Or the trampoline effect of the 3S. I am just very used to having that extra kind of second to roll that ball or place it exactly where I want or get that little extra spin.
Yep.
And that is the one thing I think of why I'm not in love with this paddle right now. I'm going to still keep play testing it. I'm going to experiment with a little more weight, just see if I can hone it in a little bit better. But yeah, it's not a bad paddle. It is a great paddle. It is a very good power paddle, especially for the price.
Yeah.
I just really struggle with control. And that's one thing I have not seen a lot of people talk about. Now, if you only are a power player, you only drive the ball, you're going to love this paddle. Like I said, my issues were on drops and some of the resets and just the bigger one. It was interesting. So normal dinks had no issue with, but taking balls out of the air, major issue.
Yeah.
Like the reaching in that kitchen and just pop. I had so many pop-ups. I felt so bad for my partner. Like I was playing in like some 4 or 5 to 4 8 games this last week with this. I had to switch off.
Yeah.
Like it was my second day with the paddle. So again, I wasn't quite as adjusted to it.
Yeah.
But like I just kept popping balls up and I'm like, I can't. I'm losing all these games for my partner. I felt bad. So like I said, I'm going to keep playing with it. I'm going to post my review probably later this week. But I just wanted to give my thoughts because we haven't been able to talk about it because we haven't gotten our hands on it. So that's the 11SIX24. But yeah, again, it's a good power paddle. Just I think it lacks a little more control than what.
Yeah. And they got pre-sales on that on the 14th.
So. Yeah. Because I know they sold out immediately.
Yeah. So if it comes out today, or if this comes out today, maybe tomorrow. If it comes out tomorrow, they might be sold out again.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things.
Actually, they're doing it completely in order. So if you place an order, it's just strictly going, whoever ordered first gets it first.
Oh, that's nice.
So,
and I think this one's a pre-order though. For
yeah,
the 14th,
so this is a pre-order.
Because they're getting a restock. I'll get a little bit later.
If you see this and want to go buy one, go order it now as fast as you can. If you want to be first.
Last paddle I want to cover is the J2TI Plus. We briefly mentioned it. Obviously, we went into depth with destructive testing at USAP.
Yep.
And we briefly talked about this on our last podcast with going over the specs, so I don't want to go over those again. But just some general thoughts. I do really like this paddle.
Yeah.
It hits harder than obviously the original J2K. I love the J2K. It won a lot of awards for me. I just had some issues with, like I said, the marketing behind it, which is this paddle is going to break. And they're giving... there's like a replacement program with the warranty of where I can't remember the exact pricing, but basically you can get another paddle like their warranty for significantly cheaper, but you have to get 2 and you have to buy them immediately. And if you only buy 1, you don't get the second one. So interesting there. It is super affordable. I mean, this paddle is already pretty cheap in comparison to a lot of power paddles. The titanium feels amazing. I played with the regular one also, the Kevlar. Feels great. I love the titanium. I think you and I are very similar on that.
Very much so.
But I just still have major issues with the fact that we're getting into where we're designing paddles that are going to break, which goes exactly back into what USAP is just not realizing.
Yeah.
Because this one and like the new Proto Height from Pro XR, we're hearing that paddle only lasts like a month.
Yeah.
And they're even advertising because like the pros get new paddles.
Yep.
But the problem with all of these though, because I know I heard Chris bring this up, do consumers want this?
I mean, lots of sellouts.
So I said they're selling out. So clearly the consumer does. The consumer isn't caring, which I don't think that's good.
But it kind of goes back to what we were saying. Like people aren't going to switch off of the mod when it breaks because they like the way the mod plays when it breaks.
Exactly.
So these paddle breaking, they're not unusable.
Yeah.
They just shouldn't be used.
And that goes, I just want to loop this back into the 11SIX24 Power series. That's where I'm like, my sentiment about that paddle, I don't think is going to resonate with a lot of people because a lot of the people that are looking for a mod replacement, if you're playing with a broken mod, drops are so hard with that paddle. So if you're used to playing with that, the 11SIX24 Power is going to be significantly cheaper give you really good power, not top end, but very good power.
Yep.
And if you're only used to driving and speed ups, it's like that paddle's gonna be perfect for you.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like, I want to preface, it's like, for me, I'm having issues in these control aspects, but the person that's probably gonna be buying it isn't gonna care about that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing, like I said, with a lot of these power paddles. People just want power.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
They don't care.
They do not care.
Yeah.
Like I said, and that's the way we get change is people vote with their wallets, and people are doing the exact opposite. And that's why all of these brands are responding the way they are.
Yep.
So
For sure.
it's going to be interesting to keep monitoring that. Like I said, the J2TI Plus, like I said, it is a great paddle, but it's like it breaks. Or it's like they're literally telling you from the start it's going to break.
Yeah.
And I'm like, kind of puts that in a weird spot to recommend or not.
For sure. I mean,
Like I said, the only thing is, I guess, that you can get 3 for kind of the price of some of these high-end paddles.
yeah.
And that might be worth it to some people. So I don't know.
For sure.
The other thing too is, like I said, ours haven't broken in yet, but I am going to be very intrigued to see how hard that paddle hits once it fully breaks.
Yeah.
Because it's not starting crazy high.
No.
Like it's on the bottom end of power. So it's like, okay, will it get to mid? I don't know. So that'll be something interesting to monitor. Like I said, we'll keep updating you guys. And I think we have one more update from a brand that we're, like I said, definitely big fans of.
Yeah. Definitely big fans of. FORWRD or Kitchen.
Formerly Kitchen.
They're releasing their new backpack, the Ranger. I'm really excited about the Ranger.
I mean, it's been anticipated for a while.
It looks really good. It looks super solid. You could use it as a work backpack and no one would even know that it's a pickleball bag.
I think the favorite thing, which I think you would agree with me on this, and if I remember correctly, the paddle sleeve on our court caddy, I think is just built in to the outside of the bag, correct? On this one?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when I saw that design, I'm like, I like that. Because like it doesn't, to a general person, if you're using it for work, you don't know.
No.
Like you would have no idea that's what that's for.
No.
But then if you go to the pickleball, courts, you just slide that in right in that, and then you have the room for your laptop and maybe 1 or 2 other paddles.
Yeah.
Although I shouldn't say that, because the owner, he did a video. I think he said he packed more in the Ranger than he did the court caddy on its recent trip. Like it has more room, which is hard to believe looking at the size of it.
Yeah,
He did an unpacking.
Laptop, 3 paddles, water bottle, bunch of books. And
Did the 3 paddles include on the outside or only on the inside?
Yeah, on the inside.
So that's what I'm saying. So you can fit a 4th on the outside. Yeah.
So
I said, that's crazy. So I think it's going to be a very good utility backpack.
yeah.
I know obviously they started as a pickleball company and they are still very much that, but I know he's probably trying to, like I said, he knows a lot about the industry.
Yeah.
So like I said, I think going to FORWRD, you might see some people outside of pickleball maybe gravitate toward this brand a little bit.
I think so too.
But you want to go over the prices? Because that's what's crazy.
Yeah. So they're doing a big pre-sale. I didn't realize that they're not shipping till June.
Yeah.
So you buy it now, it'll be a long wait, but it launches at 12. So the pre-sale starts February 17th at 12 p.m. From 12 to 1, you can get it for 40% off. So it's starting at $165, coming down to $99. That's crazy.
That's
Court
insane.
caddy's $300.
Yeah. The sling bag is what, 200, right? It's around that.
Yeah, 200.
I know they run sales, so
I think it's
slightly
200.
under, but yeah.
1 to 4, 33% off. So you're looking at 109. Still crazy. 4 to midnight, 28% off. After first 12 hours, 129.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So 99, 109, 119, 129.
I know when we were showing the sling bag, like I was telling you, I'm like, I don't know where this bag's going to fit in the pricing. And clearly he's going for the more, again, still premium.
Yeah.
Premium backpack, but like more affordable than court caddy.
Yeah, I mean, $99 is pretty good.
Definitely, if you get in early. So
Yeah.
if you've been looking for the Ranger or you've been looking for a kitchen bag.
And I mean, I don't think they're planning on selling out because they have it for 12 hours. So
yeah.
Anybody who wants it for $99 seems like they
probably just getting pre-orders for how much demand they're going to have, which is smart.
Yeah. So
yeah, if you've been interested in it, like I said, formerly Kitchen Bag, now they're FORWRD, they rebranded. So head on over to their website. Like I said, if you are interested, and like I said, I definitely think I'll be picking one up probably for work.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyways, I think that's all we got. So like I said, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.